Discoverers, it is Mrs. Bishop and I am back with another video by your request. I know that some of you have asked me to do a sort of a home tour to show you some of the oddities I have around my house, but I'm not doing that. I had another idea and that's the idea that I'm going to go with. I'm going to do a haul video because let's face it, who does not like a good haul video? I love haul videos. You love haul videos. We all love haul videos. So this is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to do like an antique mall haul or a flea market haul or anything like that. I'm actually going to do a history haul. So all of the items I'm going to show you are going to correspond with one period of history. So I'm going to show you different items and I'm going to explain how they correspond with that particular period of history. So the period I have picked is the Victorian era because we have been studying the United Kingdom. We studied Queen Victoria. We know that she reigned from 1837 to 1901. And so that is a particular time period that I have chosen. Most of these items, actually all of them, I believe, are coming from the American Victorian time period, which actually lasted a little bit longer than Queen Victoria's reign in 1901. We sort of got on the bandwagon late, so we carried the Victorian period a little bit later than the British people did. So all of these items I'm going to show you correspond with that particular era. So if you are ready, I'm just going to hop right into it. I have about 5 different items to show you and to explain why they relate to the Victorian era and what they would have been used for back then. So check it out. So this first item I have to show you is probably the least exciting of the bunch, so we're going to start off with it right away. And it is this doorknob. And I actually had the idea of like a DIY. I was going to take a bunch of old antique doorknobs. I was going to turn them into this awesome coat rack. So when my husband and I came home from our various adventures, we can just put our coats on the coat rack. It would be these really neat antique doorknobs and it would match the style of my house. Unfortunately, I wasn't thinking when I bought this one because this is rather rusted and I am not going to put my coat on a rusty doorknob. As much as I do love the rusted effects, I don't like it on my coat. So I'm going to have to use this elsewhere. Right now I've been displaying it on my shelf in my living room and I think it is very nice. Like I said, you can tell it's very old. It is very rusted, sort of detailed on the side, but I believe this came from the early 1900s, which is why I included it in this particular video. The next video I have to show you, that was kind of a creepy look. So, I'm sorry, not video. Hello. I was just like staring at myself in the camera. That was weird. So the next item I have to show you is this vintage print in this frame, and this hangs in my hallway. And what this is this is actually an advertisement for the Cosmopolitan magazine from 1904, and this is advertising a special type of railway that was offered during the World's Fair in St. Louis. And what they did is this was the Wabash Railroad, and they offered this special line that would take you from your city directly to the gates of the World Fair. And the World Fair was a huge deal back in this time period. People would come from all over the country. Big inventors would come and they would show their different items. A big hoopla in this time period. The reason I like this is because every year, I'm sorry, it's kind of glaring. That's a little better. Every year during Christmas time, my mom and I watch the movie Meet Me in St. Louis, and that movie is based on this event, the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, and so that just sort of reminded me of our tradition, and I loved it. I found this frame at a thrift store. It's got really nice detailing on it. It cost me $1, and I think they look perfect together. So this hangs in my hallway and is also a representation of Victorian times. So the next item I have is this very heavy, very awkward looking piece. This is actually called a cobbler stand, and it stands up like this, but I can't really get it in the entire frame. There we go. It would stand like this on a table in a cobbler's workshop. A cobbler was a shoemaker and shoe repairsman. I guess they're still technically called cobblers, but we don't really call them that anymore. So back then you didn't have mass-produced shoes. You had a cobbler make your shoes. And if your shoe had something wrong with it, you didn't just go out and buy a new pair. You'd take it to the cobbler and he would fix it. So he would use a stand like this, put your shoe on it, and he would fix it on the stand. Now this part pops off and you can actually put different sizes because this is a specific size shoe. I'm not sure. I think this is smaller than my own shoe. It looks like a very small foot. But you can put different sizes to reflect the shoe that the cobbler would be repairing. And that's what this was used for. This is very heavy cast iron. It's actually making my lower back hurt just holding it up. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I got it for $10 at a flea market. I actually had to haggle for this beauty. He wanted 15 and I was like, well, I can't pay 15. Would you take 10? And he said, absolutely, I would take 10. And so I got it. I brought it home. I thought it was really cool, really neat piece of Victorian era work, like crafts. I don't know. What's the word? I can't think of the word. Anyway, a really nice piece of the industrial era. Oh, there it was. A really nice piece of industrial era in the Victorian times. And I just really liked it. So it's been sitting in the corner of my living room, just sort of sitting there waiting for someone to notice it. So that is my cobbler stand. So the next item I have to show you is actually a little bit big to put myself and it in the frame at the same time. So it is this picture. Can you see it? Ah. I don't know. Is it like, there's that silly light. My fan light keeps reflecting on everything that's glass. Anyway, this is a parlor scene. This picture was created in 1907. Found this at an antique store for $5 and I saved it because it was in a really beat up old frame and I took it out of that old frame, put it in a nice frame, put a mat around it, glass. Now it hangs in my kitchen. And this would have been what the art would typically have looked like in Victorian times because they were very family oriented. They loved their family. They loved showing family. They liked affluence, and so they would have shown the family in a nice home. You can see the mom, the dad, the children are all dressed very well. They liked that picture of home sweet home, which is what this is called. They liked feeling warm and cozy and loved. And so this particular piece would have been a great reflection of the Victorian era. You can see obviously by the clothing they're wearing, what they're choosing to do with their time. Nobody's on iPhones, nobody's playing video games. You have the father who's reading, the mother who's sewing, and the children who are playing with toys on the floor. So I just really thought this reflected the Victorian era very well. And so that is the piece that I bought from that particular store. And now, like I said, it's hanging in my kitchen. So the last piece that I'm going to show you is probably my favorite piece, maybe of all time, that I've ever found. You guys know that I like creepy things. That's not a news flash. So I guess this could be considered creepy. What this is, but it's a very important part of history too, so remember that. This is a mourning card, and a mourning card would have been used in situations where a relative may not have been able to attend a funeral of a loved one. And as you know, in the early 1900s, transportation was not as readily available as it is now. You couldn't just hop in your car and drive an hour to a funeral. It would have taken a lot longer to get there. Most people back then still did not have cars yet. And so a lot more people were unable to attend funerals. So what they'd do is they'd send this card, and I won't read the whole thing. It's got a poem about death, and then there's one up here, and then there's another one down here. But it says, in loving remembrance of Mary A. Montgomery, died January 30th, 1890. And what's really freaky is I bought this on January 30th. So I bought this the same day she died. Coincidence? Probably. So like I said, these would have been mailed to relatives who could not attend the funeral, just as sort of like a keepsake for not being able to be there with their loved ones. As we talked about in class, cameras were not really a prominent thing back then. You couldn't just take a digital camera and print it off or upload it to your phone. It was very expensive to get a picture taken. So a lot of these people didn't have anything to remember their loved ones by, and so they started manufacturing these cards. This particular card would have been more from an affluent family, a family that was wealthy, because it is the black, it is hard cardboard, it is gold embossed, and it is big. This is probably a 4x6. Most of them would have been about half of this size. So this family would have been a little bit more wealthy than your typical family. Also, a lot of times with this card, they would have sent a pair of black gloves. The typical standard for a funeral at this time, socially acceptable to wear black and all black. And like we talked about in class, the mourning rituals depended on how close that you were to the family. Black gloves were a must at funerals, and so a lot of times they would have passed out black gloves at the actual funeral and then sent them along with these memory cards to the people that could not attend. pretend. So I just was really excited to find this. It cost me $5. I put it in a frame. It now sits in our living room. That might be creepy. Doesn't seem to bother my husband. But it makes me wonder, who was Mary A. Montgomery and what happened to her? You know, she died January 30th, 1890. It doesn't even give a birth year, which sometimes they do. And so it would have been nice to know how old she was, and who she was. Who was her family? Who loved her? What did she do? You know, what were her values in life? But this is all I have to go by her. So I'm going to keep it safe. I'm going to keep her memory alive in my living room, even though I have no idea who she is. I just think that this was really cool. I know some of you think it's really creepy, but I don't care. It's a really insightful piece to teach about some of the mourning customs in Victorian America. So I bought it. Okay, guys, that is all I have for you today. Hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully you learned something about this time period, because that is the goal of this channel, is to further your education outside of the classroom. I know a lot of you love watching YouTube and you asked me to do these videos, and so that's what I'm doing, and I'm making these to hopefully teach you a little more something than we talk about in class. So again, I hope you liked these. I will continue to do these history hauls. I know I'm going to do a World War II haul, and I have some items left over from my Victorian haul that I can show you for a Victorian haul part 2. So hope you've had a great day. I will see you on YouTube next time, and hopefully in person even sooner than that. So peace out.